Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Science of Staying Sharp, Tools and Tips for Healthy Aging, hosted by us, WellSaid AI. We are so thrilled to have you on today to explore practical ways to protect brain health and improve daily habits and stay independent as you age. My name is Audrey, and I am going to be the moderator for today's session, and I'm also going to help present, guiding you through the latest research and showing you how technology like Coach Kara can help make healthy aging a little bit more accessible. We have a fantastic program lined up for today, filled with insights from aging research, actionable tips, and taking a closer look at how small daily choices can make a really big difference. All right, before we begin, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. So the way that our webinar platform is set up is so that there's no need for you to worry about your camera or microphone. So everyone is automatically muted and your camera stays off throughout the session. That way you can just sit back, relax, and focus on the content. But that does not mean that we don't want you to participate. We strongly encourage participation throughout the webinar through the chat, polls, and question boxes. So a few of you have already participated in the chat, which is great. And if you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you should see a few buttons. You should see a chat, questions, and polls button. So feel free to use the chat or the questions tab at any time. Whether you want to share a thought or ask a question, you can do so in either of these places. And we will keep an eye on both of these areas throughout the session, and we will do a Q&A at the end. Or we might be addressing your questions as they come, depending on the nature. You may also notice a polls button, and I am going to go ahead and publish a fun poll. Let's see here. So you might see a little notification on that polls button. You can go over there and answer that question. All of the answers to the polls will be completely anonymous, and it's just a nice way to get some of your feedback throughout the session. So I'd love to, and this poll is just what's your favorite way to keep your mind sharp? I'd be very curious to know with which of these options you tend to do the most. So today's content will run for about 35 minutes, followed by a live Q&A at the end. And like I said, submit your questions at any point. We'll get to as many as we can. And I also want to share that this session today is recorded, and we will send the recording to your email afterwards in case you want to revisit it or share it with someone. So there's no need for you to take notes or anything. Don't worry too much about that. And I believe that is all of our housekeeping notes. So with that, I would love to introduce our speakers for today and share a little bit about who we are at WellSaid, especially for those who are joining for the first time, because I know that there's a handful of you. So at WellSaid AI, everything that we do is rooted in helping older adults live well longer. We care deeply about supporting independence, health, and connection, and we've built tools to do just that. And here at WellSaid, we combine science-backed guidance with smart, voice-powered technology to meet people where they are and offer support that feels personal, helpful, and human. But most importantly, we really deeply care about acting as a source of accurate information on the science of aging, which is really what brings us here today. Today, we will hear from Dr. Williams, who is the co-founder and CEO of WellSaid. You should see him on your screen there. We'll hear him at the end of today's session. Hi, Dr. Williams. And Christopher, who holds a master's degree in social work and has worked with Dr. Williams since 2009. He has an awesome presentation today for us on the Pointer to Study specifically. And myself, Audrey, I run our marketing team here at WellSaid, and I will also be participating in today's presentation. And with that, let's get started. So today we will be covering an important study that was recently released, the US Pointer Study, which confirmed what many of us have believed intuitively for years. We will start with what the results revealed, what they mean for you, and explore solutions that can help address these areas in your daily life. But before we do that, I want to quickly take a step back and remind ourselves why this topic matters so much. When we ask older adults what they fear the most, It isn't death, it isn't taxes, it's losing independence. And the reality is really sobering. Research shows that about 70% of us will eventually need some form of long-term care. And at the same time, we're facing this massive shrinking pool of caregivers. Rates of cognitive decline are also quickly rising, with 7.2 million Americans living with Alzheimer's today. This number is projected to nearly double to 13.8 million by 2060, which is obviously a very mind-blowing fact, and it's why it's super critical to act now and to focus on brain health and independence before decline begins, so that we can stay sharp and we can stay in control of our own lives for as long as possible. So we know that maintaining independence is a top priority, if not the top priority for most older adults, but it's often challenged by 4 very common issues: memory and cognitive decline, balance and falls, social isolation, and hearing loss. And for years, we've had a general sense of what is good for brain health and what lifestyle choices can help in these areas. But what makes the US Pointer study so exciting is that it measured and identified exact interventions and proved that they deliver measurable benefits in areas that matter most. So that is why we are so emphatic here about this research, and now have some real evidence that these habits can prevent cognitive decline and in turn help prevent the loss of independence, which we know is so important. So with that, I will pass it over to Chris, who will dive deeper into the US Pointer study.
Thanks, Audrey. Thank you all for being here. So first, I'd like to answer, what is the US Pointer study? The US Pointer study is the first large-scale clinical trial in the United States to test whether lifestyle changes can protect memory and thinking in older adults at higher risk for cognitive decline. The study was inspired by a similar trial in Finland called the FINGER study, which showed promising results in reducing memory loss, but researchers wanted to replicate that in the United States. Over 2,000 older adults participated in the Pointer study, and they were divided into 2 groups: structured intervention and self-guided intervention. And we'll get to the interventions in a few moments. Researchers followed these 2 groups for 2 years, focusing on daily habits. Remember, this is not about medication or expensive treatments. It's about everyday lifestyle choices, things that are in our control. Researchers focused on 4 main lifestyle interventions: nutrition, physical activity, cognitive and social engagement, and vascular risk monitoring. Now, for nutrition, researchers recommended to the participants that they advised eating a MIND diet. A MIND diet is a hybrid of the Mediterranean and DASH diets designed to promote brain health and prevent cognitive decline. I won't give you the acronym for MIND, but it's kind of long, lengthy, but it's exactly what it says it's intended to do. The key principles of this diet are an emphasis on plant-based foods, consuming at least 6 servings of vegetables, fruits, and legumes daily, healthy fats, including olive oil, nuts, and seeds, limiting saturated and trans fats, and reducing intake of red meat, butter, and cheese. Whole grains were recommended, eating at least 3 servings of whole grains daily, and moderate alcohol consumption, up to 1 glass a day of wine for women and 2 for men. Now, these, I want to be careful about my language here. These weren't advised or recommended. This is what the participants signed up to do. Remember, 2 interventions, 1 self-guided and 1 that was for the group. Physical activity, cognitive and social engagement, and vascular risk monitoring. Again, giving you a little bit more details. We won't go into specifics, but this is exactly what they signed up for. So for physical activity, regular exercise included 3 specific areas: aerobic, strength training, and flexibility and balance. For the aerobic section, it was 4 times a week at 30 to 35 minutes each session. For strength training, it was 2 times a week, between 15 and 20 minutes a session. And for flexibility and balance, it was 2 times a week, between 10 and 15 minutes each time. Cognitive and social engagement, the participants engaged in activities that challenge the brain, such as puzzles, learning new skills, and group discussions. Vascular risk monitoring, they kept track of blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes, because what's good for the heart is also good for the brain. Remember, these are all things that you can practice in your daily life. You don't need to be perfect, and it's never too late to start. What were the key findings? Well, better thinking and memory. Participants who followed the interventions had slower rates of cognitive decline. Stronger bodies, physical exercise improved balance, strength, and reduced risk of falls. Improved mood, staying socially connected and mentally active, reduced feelings of loneliness and depression, and the heart and brain connection. Managing blood pressure and blood sugar protected both heart and brain health. So while both interventions improved cognition, the cognitive benefits were even greater for participants in the more structured intervention group, helping to protect thinking and memory from the normal decline that often comes with aging over the nearly 2-year period of the study. Participants experienced cognitive improvement regardless of sex, ethnicity, genetic risk, or heart health status. What this tells us is powerful. Small, consistent changes really do add up. Just like we brush our teeth every day to protect them, we can also move, eat, think, and connect every day to protect our brains. Alzheimer's and dementia risk increase with age, but lifestyle can lower that risk by up to 40%. Many older adults worry about memory loss, but the Pointer study shows there are steps that we can take that truly do make a difference. A few examples, these are all from the study. Real examples, a 72-year-old participant who started walking daily reported feeling sharper and less tired. Another participant joined a book club, not just for the reading, but for the friendships that they were able to acquire. Someone else made small dietary swaps, more vegetables and less fried food. They felt more energized. And so this isn't really about living forever. It's about living well with independence, purpose, and joy. Now I'd like to share some practical tips for starting. Nutrition. Add 1 extra vegetable or fruit a day, but make sure that it's one that you would enjoy, that you will do it again. Try cooking with olive oil instead of butter. Exercise. Start with 10 minutes of walking after a meal. Find a weighted household object that's easy to hold and do repeated lifts. Or for flexibility, from a seated position, lift 1 foot off the ground and flex your foot and ankle, making a circular motion. Try the other foot and then try them together. Small steps, but big impact. Cognitive and social challenge. Learn a new card game. Call a friend to discuss the news or a book. Health monitoring. Learn how to take your blood pressure correctly and keep a log of it. Ask your doctor how often to check for cholesterol or blood sugar. These are things that you may already be doing. These are simple steps that can help you start now. Remember, the goal is to incorporate these into everyday habits. With that, I'll give it back to Audrey.
Awesome. Thanks, Christopher. I'm going to go ahead and publish a quick poll So you should see it up on your screen. Again, your answer will be anonymous, and we would love to get your input here. We've discussed each of these areas, but I'm curious if you could improve one daily habit starting today, which area would it be in, or which of these would it be? I'll give everyone a few seconds to answer, and if you don't wish to participate, you can press the skip button. I believe it's at the bottom left-hand corner of the pop-up. I see some answers trickling in. Thank you so much for participating. Awesome. Thank you all. And thank you, Chris, so much for a super awesome review of the US Pointer Study. So this research certainly gives us the blueprint for how to age well, but the real challenge is in daily life. So I love the sort of practical tips that Christopher shared. We all know that even when we know what's good for us, it can feel overwhelming to know where to start or how to keep healthy habits consistently. And that's why it's really important to have tools that translate that science into simple actions, whether it's reminders to move or brain challenges or health tips or prompts to stay connected. And here at WellSaid AI, this is exactly where our passion lies, right? So putting practical tools into the hands of older adults so that these habits can actually really stick. And that brings us to what we've been building. And I know some of you have sort of met Coach Kara in the past, but if you haven't, meet Coach Kara, your voice-powered digital well-being coach. And Coach Kara brings all of these lifestyle strategies to life with simple daily check-ins on a smart speaker. So you can think of her as a friendly companion who helps make these important habit areas very doable every single day. And with years of research behind her, Coach Kara addresses all of the areas that can put that independence at risk. So from memory and cognition to balance, mobility, hearing, safety, even loneliness. And you can see here where the sort of little purple markers are, where the Pointer Study has really focused its research on that. Those areas are already really embedded into what we've been working on with Coach Kara. With these daily check-ins, she helps identify concerns early and gives you the insights and the encouragement that you need to stay on track. And when you're armed with this information, you will, or you might feel more motivated to talk with your doctor or make small safety changes at home, start a new exercise routine, or simply feel more connected to the people around you. But you might be wondering, what is the real outcome of these check-ins? And with Coach Kara, all of those conversations add up to something that's really powerful. So each month you'll receive an easy-to-read report that tracks your overall well-being score and highlights any areas that might need attention. And these reports make it simple to see your progress over time and can be shared with your family or even your doctor, giving everyone peace of mind and helping you stay proactive about your health. So not only is it important to start implementing these things into your daily routine, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I know if I'm actually doing the right things to make myself age in a more healthy way? And that is where Coach Kara can really come into play. We do know sometimes the best next step is to try it for yourself. And that's why I'm excited to pass it over to Dr. Williams, who's here to share a really exciting exclusive offer.
Thanks, Audrey, and thanks, Christopher. Let me just start by recapping what I think is the most compelling story behind the US Pointer trial. And that is that for the first time ever, as Christopher mentioned, we now have clear, solid scientific evidence in the form of the highest standard of scientific research study, the randomized prospective trial of lifestyle as an improvement intervention for cognitive health. What's really cool is that in that study, both groups actually got better. The group that was supposed to serve as the control group was the group that had instructions that were given to them, and then they were on their own. So the good news there is that even if you're on your own, you can do better. And with doing the right things, as Christopher mentioned, your cognition actually improves, not just prevents decline. And then the second and even more powerful story is the intervention itself. And that is that if you have organized and supervised and accountable oversight for your daily lifestyle behavior changes, you'll do even better. The really great news about that is it looks like it's saving about 2 to 3 years worth of cognition just by taking on these lifestyle habits. So we're super excited to share today with this group that we've been collaborating with the Alzheimer's Association and with the National Institutes on Health to actually take the infrastructure of the Pointer study, the interventions, and put them into a technology-enabled program so that it's going to be a lot easier for folks to do this in the comfort of their own home and at scale that's not achievable in group settings. And so as we're developing that out here over the next few months, we'd like to invite you as participants in this webinar to join us in that development work. We have 2 ways for you to do that. The first is if you're interested in knowing where your own brain health stands today, we're offering a free brain health assessment that you can undertake. That'll tell you whether you're like the Pointer study participants at a higher risk and might benefit from these lifestyle interventions. And the second is to sign up to use our brain health program. Our brain health program is being developed again in collaboration with the NIH and the Alzheimer's Association. And what we're looking for here are folks who are willing to help us refine and develop that programming so that it's ready for broad commercial release later this year. So if you're interested in being one of the very first early users and giving us feedback on how it's working for you, we'd be happy to incorporate you into our what we call beta test program of our brain health programming. So this is not just assessment, it's actually lifestyle intervention support that again supports what the US Pointer trial developed validation for. So I'm happy to stop there and pass it back to Audrey and Christopher to wrap up.
Thanks, Dr. Williams. And I have added to the chat a link to a form that you can fill out if you're interested in either the free brain health assessment or joining that waiting list for our brain health program. And you do have the opportunity to do both. It's just one single form that you can go into and mark which one, if not both, you are interested in, and we will be in touch with you, making sure that you are either getting that free brain health assessment or on that waiting list. And if you have any questions too about that form or these programs, feel free to add a question to the chat, or you can also reach us at support@wellsaid.ai. As we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a thought that, you know, a lot of this research, I said it at the beginning, may seem intuitive, it may seem simple, but now it's really important to recognize that we do have actual evidence that everyday habits really do protect brain health. But it's important to also remember that you don't have to overhaul your entire life, and start by choosing one new habit this week, because small, consistent steps are what really leads to long-term independence and vitality. And I love the sort of analogy of thinking of your brain like a garden. When you nourish it with care, it has the power to grow and to adapt and to thrive at any stage in life. And with that, I would love to open it up to any questions that you may have. So like I've said, feel free to add any questions, either about the Pointer study, Coach Kara, our research. We're happy to answer any questions in the chat or the questions tab. I will give it a minute before that filters in. I know one question I've gotten anonymously is it ever too late to start making lifestyle changes? I don't know if Dr. Williams or Christopher, you have an answer to that one.
I'd just like to point out that can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's never too late. In fact, one of the exciting things about the Pointer study is that there are all these little satellite studies that they are piggybacking off of the original information that they're finding. One of the exciting things for me is that one of the things that older adults suffer from is muscle loss. And recent research is finding that at any age, no matter how old you are, you can improve your strength through strength training. You can build muscle at any age safely. So you can, and of course you can change your diet at any time. You can base your flexibility and mobility things on what you're capable of doing. There is always room for safe improvement lifestyle changes at any stage.
And Audrey, I'll add to what Christopher says about that in the following regard. The later you are in life, the bigger the benefit is from making these small changes. It turns out that relative to not doing anything different, you're actually going to see a bigger improvement by taking on some of these small changes, whether it be diet or exercise or monitoring blood pressure, that kind of thing, the later you are in life.
Awesome. Georgette has a question of what is the time commitment for both programs?
Our brain health assessment is something we can complete with you pretty quickly. It can be done mostly through a form that we'll have you fill out, and then we'll interact with you via a web conference. Typically, it takes about 20 minutes to finish all that up and get a report back to you and let you know where your brain health stands. And then in terms of our brain health exercise or lifestyle programming, that's a program that we're designing that will span approximately 3 months. And we would like you to interact with us on that program at least 5 times a week. It would require you to spend probably about 15 minutes a day interacting with that program via a web browser technology. So about 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, over the course of about 3 months.
Great. And I want to also verbally say, it seems like there's an issue with the form. So I'm going to go ahead and send a new form to all the attendees after this webinar. So keep an eye out for that if you are interested in joining. Let's see. Lawrence says, is this similar to the past brain health assessment? I'm not sure exactly which one you took, Lawrence, or if you have any information on that. Yeah.
I can probably answer that. So we've been conducting an NIH-sponsored memory assessment trial of our technology to look at brain health. And anybody who's on the webinar who participated in that research study, your brain health assessments are up to date. You don't need to repeat that at this point. You certainly are welcome to join us in the brain health programming that we're developing and validating next.
Awesome. Another question we have is which of the 4 areas, so sort of nutrition, exercise, cognitive, and social, which makes the biggest difference?
I don't think we know the answer to that. I think because the study had people involved in all of those components together, it looks to me like they're all synergistic from what I can tell. I suspect that they're all helping our metabolism and they're helping our brain stay active. So I think that together collectively is where the power comes from. So my suspicion is you want to do a bit of all these.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I have one more question that trickled in. So what happens with the information that Coach Kara collects? Who sees that information?
Yeah, the information that's collected by Coach Kara is for you to see and for you to decide who to share that with. So any information that's provided through our reporting goes directly to you. And if you wish to choose to share that with your doctor or your nurse or anybody else, that's up to you to decide.
Great. That is all of the questions that I've seen come through. I'll give it another few seconds to see if any more trickle in, but I will take that as we have answered some common questions here. And And like I said, this whole session has been fully recorded and it will automatically send to you after this webinar is over. And then in addition to that, I will go ahead and make sure that everyone gets a new form that is easier to fill out if you are interested in either of those programs. Diana has a follow-up question. Does Coach Kara delete all information after sending the data to me? Like a data specific question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, the data that you would provide as part of your brain health assessment, once that report is sent to you, we do not maintain or keep that data. If you are a subscriber to our brain health programs, the ones that you're involved in daily over many, many months and years, probably, that data that's collected is used to keep track of how you're trending over time and generate those reports that allow you to know whether you're doing better or worse, et cetera. So that information is not deleted unless ever you disenroll from the program, and then we would de-identify that data so nobody would know that it was you.
Awesome. Alan says, a lot of people are trying to sell supplements to take for brain health. Will any of these be discussed or maybe part of the program at all?
We can touch briefly on them here, and then maybe that's a topic for another webinar. But nutrition is a broad concept. I think that as Christopher mentioned, common sense, healthy eating is really what the Mind Diet focuses on, and I think that's the place to start. When it comes to supplements, supplements are available for lots of different reasons by lots of different providers for lots of different quality or indications. So I'd be cautious about broadly recommending supplements in general, especially for brain health. If you go to the pharmacy, you will find all kinds of things that promote themselves as helping your brain or memory. You'll see those on TV advertised pretty frequently. And I would say in general, those are safe, but I would say of dubious effectiveness. In other words, have they gone through the kind of clinical study, randomized prospective, NIH sponsored, that things like the US Pointer trial did, or even our own technologies have done? The answer is simply no. They only simply have to be proven to be safe, in other words, not to harm you, in order to be promoted, cleared for promotion at the pharmacy or television ads. So again, I would say they're reasonably safe at this point, but whether or not they benefit you or not is a pretty dubious claim.
Thank you. I think that's a good place to wrap for today. So I just want to thank you all so much again for joining us for this thoughtful discussion on the science of staying sharp. We deeply appreciate you spending your time with us, and we hope that you found it valuable. We would love to see you at our next webinar. And until then, take care and enjoy the rest of your day.